again, my dear listeners of the Journey to Creativity, a place to explore, to reignite, to discover, to dream, to connect to our creative natures and explore what that is and how it feels like, and go through the journey of like trying to be more of an artist and how that feels. Welcome.
Hello, Vanessa.
Bethel. All right, I'm gonna have to quickly tell you here who's with me. She is a poet and spoken word artist. She's also a performer, voice and lyrics of Basque, the band Basque with Sid. She's also a mad scientist and environmental activist, very, very fired up by it. And she is the host and creator of Raw Voices. If you don't know, this is a poetry, comedy, and music show that happens every last Friday of the month at Locals Lunch in YYC. Bethel Afework, welcome to the show of creative bursts. How are you? Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to talk about a lot of different topics today, focused on creativity, but you know, there's a lot of branches that connect to it. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll explore all that you think about it today.
pick my brain a little bit. Yeah. Get through some of them.
We'll go through some of it, yes. So just so you know, you can find Bethel on Instagram. Her Instagram personal one is Bethel2, number 2. I'll write this down anyway. Also Basque Music, if you want to find out about her band with Sid. An amazing band of very strong lyrics and really rock music, which I bang. I like that. And Raw Voices YYC. Also, you can find it just like that, Raw Voices YYC on Instagram. Same for Facebook, Raw Voices YYC. And you can also listen to Basque on Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play. There's many platforms, and you can check that on their link on their Instagram. So, yes, that is it. Raw Voices. That's how I met you, actually. I'm pretty sure I met you through Raw Voices or
school. Yeah, either way.
Oh, yeah.
I think I just saw it. We were just chilling on the bench. But like, I feel like we were reacquainted properly, like at the show too. So
Yeah, for sure. So you think it was a school, or was it at a Haven party?
I think it was school. I couldn't tell you, but I feel like it was school.
Most likely. Yeah, we met at the UFC, University of Calgary. Yeah, when I first came to Calgary, I don't know if I've talked about this, but I came I did an internship, an exchange program, and I was here for 1 term. And we would hang out a lot with Bethel and Tim and Sid and a lot more people. Yeah.
It's a fun time.
They were fun times, yes. All right. I want to go straight to the point here, Bethel. Like straight up dive in. What is art for you, and what role has it played, or what role does it play in your life? What is it? What is this mystery?
Yeah, art is like super interesting because for me, I feel like I didn't even discover it. I was thrown into it to start with. So like essentially my parents put me in like piano classes and all that when I was like 5. So it wasn't like I had this choice, like, oh, I had this arts creativity, but I was like introduced to it at a very young age. And I found this like natural passion for like performing or being on the stage. There was something that I found comfortable about it. So when I got into elementary school, I would like do school plays and all that. And I just, or be in the choir or whatever the case is. What it's for me, it's like, I feel like it's like this self-expression that I can't do in other sectors, right? Like I do enjoy math and all that, but there's a certain way you can express yourself, especially if it's controversial or especially if it's something that's like taboo. Art almost makes it a little bit more approachable because it's tough to have like conversations, or like it's tough to express yourself sometimes. Like maybe a painting can express how you feel more. I'm not really a painter, but like that could be more easily communicated, your emotions through that. So I think for like art for me was a great way to, whatever was in my head or whatever topics or controversies, especially like it had to do a lot with like controversies for me.
Right.
But like it was like, how do I present this and make it digestible, right? Like I feel like art made it digestible. So Yeah, so like it definitely, like, art is very therapeutic, right? You put it on paper, especially when you write. And I've been writing like songs since I was like in grade 3, and I got introduced to spoken word like later, like in high school, and I realized like it was similar but different, right? Like there's a lot more depth you can create in spoken word, I feel. I mean, that's different people's opinions,
For
but like I
sure.
feel like songs they have a more simpler essence, I feel, than poetry can be a lot more I guess, what is it? Has a lot more gravity to it sometimes. Like there's a lot more content you can jam pack into it.
Right.
But they're same, but different. But yeah, it's definitely therapeutic, self-expression, and it's also just a way to connect with other people.
Right.
Yeah.
So you started playing piano.
Yeah.
Wow.
Timothonius taught me theory, grade 8 theory.
Oh yeah, Timothonius was
Yeah, he taught me
teaching you.
piano for a bit. It was good.
Yeah. So now that was just the way that your parents kind of like threw you into it. I think it was the same for Tim, by the way. He was just like, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're like, I wanted to play the piano, so you're going to play the piano.
I think in his case was more like, we want you to get better at math. So play piano.
That's funny. That's honestly like a big thing that people do. They want their kids to just be like, have better like eye-hand coordination or like be better at math. And they're like, I heard music is the way, which is a funny way to do it. But
Right?
like, you know, music helps in a lot of different ways. Can't lie.
It's true though.
Yeah.
Like, can't blame those parents.
Yeah.
So what is like what you're feeling more like doing now? Like if you get like muse of inspiration, a glimmer of an idea, is it usually words? Is it usually a song? What is it these days?
That connects or that inspires me or that I really like visual arts. Like I love like painting or like watercolor. It's not something that I would say is my own artistic expression. It's almost like since I don't really do it, like I've taken like art classes like in high school and stuff. Like I used to say I'm a terrible drawer, but like you realize like everything is just a learning experience. You just got to learn how to do it.
Exactly.
But I love how it's like you don't need words. It's like a universal language, like someone that doesn't understand. I feel like words are limited, right? Like to express yourself in words, but there's also like once you get into expressing yourself in words, it helps like recollect your thoughts. So yeah, I really think that I connect a lot with visual arts, but for myself, there's just I want to share like topics and stuff specifically, so that's why I'm so like driven towards words and like stuff like that. But like I think the music part of it makes also a big difference. So like for me, like now that I'm used to doing spoken word with music, it's almost like it's never the same, right? Like if I just do it by itself, it's just like the difference between like an a cappella song and like a song with like actual like music behind it, like instruments. Right. It's still great. Like there's amazing a cappella artists, but it's just the music, right? Like that also has the universal language, right? Like because you don't really need to hear the words. So the words I feel like are supplementary, but there's a lot that can go into that, which is why I like playing around with words and why I've like really stuck to that. I mean, I do play piano for fun and stuff like that, but I've really stuck to the words for sure. But find my inspirations in other things that I don't even do myself, like painting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you nurture yourself. I agree on that. Like even though I have like dabbled into painting and in music, I find that visual art is just like outstanding to me. It's like, oh,
you're just taking it all in, and then it feels so different every time.
Right.
Yeah.
And each piece is so unique. But you're right, the words do have a limitation, but I feel like when you have like honed the art, right? You've been writing for a while, writing both songs and doing spoken word performance. So you've even done your poetry with music, like not as a song, but like with a band in the background and your words on top. And I feel like since you have been working on it, the way that you convey a message, it works. Like even though you think that it's limited, it works because you have like been working on that craft, right? So like the words get less limited once you've been like doing
exactly. Once
right?
you keep doing it, and it's finding a way to almost like simplify your message, right? Like there's always like I could say a bunch of things, but like the audiences they're not going to hear every single word, right? So it's really what is my take home message, right? And I usually try to do that always on the last line, like, because it's usually like, okay, well, if you didn't pay attention, just pay attention to the last line and you'll probably get the whole poem. Or like I'll do like pauses or really like funny, because really you can get the point. Like everything else is filler. And I think that's what's so important with words too, is that there's no reason to like complicate it. Like, and I mean, you don't need to have a take home message. Like some people just write poetry just to write poetry, or they're telling a story. But for me, I really like an overall like take home message, and which is like easy to grasp. Like you don't really have to hear every single little minute word I'm saying, because words are nuanced and it's hard to catch sometimes too. Yeah.
Especially when you're performing, right?
Exactly. And it's live, right? So much happening and you're like, wait, what's happening? Or mic check didn't go great. I'm drowned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good though. It's good.
You live and you learn.
You live and you learn.
Exactly. So, and have you found that, because now you're telling me that this, the words that you put out, you're trying to make sure that the message gets to the people. So that's kind of like your motivation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do want like the message to come across. Like I would hope so, right? And that's why I try to always do that last line, make it really bring it all in. Like even if you missed a bunch of things that I said in the middle or whatever, hopefully that last line really summarizes it. Yeah, I like doing what you call, I guess, like mic drop endings, like really end it with the message, right?
Right.
Or sometimes I do it in the middle, but it would be very like overt and discreet the way like it's not supposed to be like hidden, or I don't just say it like, I'll either like really pause the music and like, make that message drive home is what I'm hoping, because yeah, like I really do take a long time usually to write my poems. Like I can create an idea, but it's like, especially if it depending on the level of controversy, like I'm like, how do I convey this without just sounding like I don't know, out of my mind. You know what I mean? Like without sounding like I want to be able to back up why I thought it, right? I don't want to just be like overtly offensive just to be offensive. Like some people just like to be controversial, and I never want to be that person, because like that could also get you, whoa, the surprise face. But it's like, what am I driving? Like, I want a bigger message. I don't want to just be controversial to be controversial. So you really got to think about, like, what's your take-home message? Because, like, people can just take it as you're just being controversial to be controversial if you don't make it as clear as you can.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you ever had, like, people tell you after, I'm sure you have, like, yo, what you said there, like, it really hit me, or... I think it's important that you're like, have you had those types of comments?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I have had a lot of those type of comments. I've also had comments where people would say like, I completely disagree with every word you say.
Wow.
But you're such a good performer that delivery was amazing, and I have to respect you for that, right? And that was specifically this one poem that I like wrote when I was like 17. And it was about like Beyonce like being a porn star, but it was supposed to create like a more like bigger picture of the industry, and how like even the most talented of women have to sexualize themselves to create that brand. And I was like gonna pick on the more obvious ones, we like to say like Kim Kardashian, all that. Respect to all those women, right? Because they do what they do, but I feel like our industries, especially entertainment industries, pushes women to sexualize themselves, even if they are great business people or talented singers or dancers or whatever. So I used her as an example because I knew it would piss people off. Everyone loves Beyonce, but I was trying to because I feel like if I was to say Kim Kardashian, people would shrug it off, right? Like, or if I said Rihanna, people are like, yeah, whatever. But like, if you say Beyonce, it's like, don't mess with Beyonce, right? So it's like, I kind of wanted to mess with her because it was almost like it made sense to drive home, like even the best of the best, I feel like needs to, and we could say it's empowerment. We could say, sure, it is, but there is an overarching, I feel, message to hone home about the industry and the sexualization of women. So that was like my point. So that was the one thing, like this woman like came up to me and she's like, I disagree with it. I hated that poem, but it was great delivery. So I got to give you that. So I was like, okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah. And I'm not doing this for people to agree with me. I want people to be like, whoa, that's not how I think, or I don't agree with that, but like still maybe reevaluate like, oh, where is she trying to come from or whatever. Yeah.
basically you want to get people thinking.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
You want them to go home and be like, I didn't like this, but why?
Yeah.
Because that's what we all should do. I mean, most of us, I mean, that's kind of like a natural human reaction that something pisses you off and you'll blame whoever triggered you.
Yeah.
Right? In this case, it was you.
Yeah.
But that person had a lot to think about within herself.
For
right?
sure.
About this.
And it's not supposed to be something that is easily agreeable on, right? Like, that's not the point of a controversy. So,
exactly.
But I hope it opens up conversations or streams of conversations.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to take a little picture here, but I'll stop. Okay. It's distracting. It's distracting. Yeah, so that's what I love about your whole message, is that you're talking about things that are uncomfortable to talk. And also you're putting themes on the table that are like relevant. Like, you have, is it a song where you talk about Trump?
Yeah.
Is that a
NSFW? Anyways.
Is that with Basque? It's with Basque, right?
Yeah,
it's in the Basque album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's called DT, if you guys.
Yeah. So
see
check
what we're
it.
talking about. Yeah.
Check it out. Yeah, it's on I was just listening to the Basque album before coming here.
It's called Convalence. So that's KON Valence.
Yes. So go check it. But behind this outer message that you're giving, do you consider creating or like writing or I don't know if it's the same channel for you, but is it healing in some way? Like, is it after you write a poem, do you feel that heavy emotion that was in you, was it like relieved somehow? Do you experience that with your art?
I definitely do. There's a lot of poetry that I just never perform because it's like pretty personal, and it's just like I wrote it down just to take it out of my mind and put it on paper.
Right.
I'm starting because a lot of the poems I wrote weren't personal life experiences, right? Like that poem on Beyonce or that poem on Trump or whatever. They're not personal. I do have some poems on the album. I'd say like Two Cities, maybe a little bit of life experience, which is the first song on the album. But there are times, and I'm starting to do that now a little bit more, where I am talking about like, this is written because I actually have experienced this or felt this way. So yeah, there's actually a new song that we posted over the summer. It was a live session at CJSW called Right to Remain Silent. And that whole thing was like a real story. Like, I wrote it while I was like in the situation and stuff, like just about my day. And like, so, and I just put it in a poem. So I am starting to do that more because I realize like it hits home, and there's like certain stories I want to tell, right? And but yeah, there are a lot of things I just don't share because they're like, I don't feel like they're just there for me, right? But yeah, I'm trying to share a little bit more of who I am on the stage, and instead of just like political topics or whatever, because that's usually what I focused on.
Right.
Yeah.
So more human Bethel is
more human Bethel. Yeah.
More connected to her emotions and life.
And sharing
that. Yeah. Not that you're not connected, but like,
yeah,
opening that window. That's beautiful.
But yeah, no, there is sometimes a lack of connection too, because sometimes you're like, I don't want to write about like a stupid breakup or whatever. I retract. A lot of actually our pieces on the album did come a little bit from personal experience. Time was definitely a personal experience. Prophet was too, but the rest, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's pretty balanced.
Yeah, it is pretty balanced. I had to take that back. I was like, wait, you're totally fibbing on that one. Yeah. But I would say like my earlier poems, like it's just not much of it, right? But subconsciously everything comes from your personal experience, right? Like, where did it come from? I had to think it, feel it. That's an experience, right? So yeah,
for sure. And I love that song too, CDs, because it did hit home for me as well. I was like, I don't know if this is exactly the message, but it's like almost feeling like an outcast in the sense that you're not like there's the rebellion of my sisters. I love that part, right? Like I have all these things going on, all these things that are being told to me, and like I don't feel like I belong in either of them, but at the same time, like I'm trying to build my own path, that honoring that past, honoring my family. I don't know if that has to do with that.
No,
but
it does.
That's like that's
was.
how I read it, and I was like, wow, that.
And it actually came from a reading. That's really funny. The Two Cities song. It's like a little off topic, but it was from like this reading I did in class, which talked about like the good city and like the city of sin and the city of good and the city of evil. I don't know what the opposite, like direct opposite of sin is. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But it was like a communications and culture classes, and we looked at different types of like religious readings and all that. So it was just talking about like that duality, and it was talking about it in cities, like kind of put heaven and hell in like city form. And what it was just always talking about you always have to do one or the other, right? And like, you know, if you really think about it, like a lot of things in this world could just be binary, right? Like if you don't say yes, it could be a no. But like sometimes I do feel like there is like that third option, right? Like sometimes there is this, you know, gray area. And essentially the whole thing, I was like, why do I have to choose between these two cities, right? And then that's why with the whole take home message, like it's like, I don't want to live in these two cities. Let me live in the country, right? Like that's right. And it was just kind of like, it did have to do with, you know, familiar pressures, like not even pressures, but like societal pressures. And like, you do want to make your family proud. You do want to do these things, but sometimes like naturally things will conflict, right? Even between your relationships or friends. But the first place I feel like you really find it is your family, because those are the first people you know. Right. And it's just like, you know, how do I hold on to my roots, right? Like, especially as like a second generation. I realize the term second generation means you were born here, not that you're, okay, whatever. It's,
Yeah.
I used to always be like, I'm first generation, but no, I'm technically second generation.
Okay.
According to the government website. Yeah. I was,
all right.
It's not well known, the definitions, but it's like, how do I hold on to those Ethiopian roots? Because I want to, and then still be, you know, I'm still authentically Canadian. This is all I know, really. So yeah, it had a lot to do with that. And poem came out. It was so funny because I read it and the teacher was like, oh, I need to cancel class. Instead of doing a quiz, write an assignment for it. So I was like, oh, I'll just write a poem about it. And then like, I was like, I actually like this. And then kind of changed a little bit because it had quotes from the stories. I took out the quotes. And then I was like, oh, this is a great piece. And
it really is. Yeah.
And I liked it. So yeah.
That's
and then
so
Sid
cool.
always creates some freaky miracle, like with the music. I was like, what? This works perfectly. Let's do it.
Sid with his guitar.
No, he just does it. I'm like, what? How? Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, wow. I really love that. And yeah, it hits home, and it does have to do a lot with, even with this podcast, I feel like, because I've talked a lot about following your own path, you know, like just not simply giving in to what society around you is telling you to do, but like trying to do your own path and trust it and believe in it and have faith in yourself. Basically comes a lot down to that, right?
Right, it does.
You're totally honoring both roots, Canadian and Ethiopian, and you will
represent.
Repping. Yes, you totally are. And yeah, how is your creative process? I'm curious to know about that. How does that happen? Yeah, I know that it's like a super weird question because you haven't even thought about it, and that's why I like to do the question.
What is the process? Honestly, sometimes you just have a really good poop and then like ideas.
Word.
Yeah, like honestly, you're like great. No, it's interesting. Sometimes it comes from, now I'm dabbling and trying more into like freestyling. Mm-hmm. So sometimes like if Sid's like, oh, I have a new song, sometimes I just like freestyle and then like a topic will come out of that. But a lot of the times it's not like something where I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to write about this. I mean, for Right to Remain Silent, it was like, I was in a situation, I was like, let me write about this. But a lot of the things I do write about, I usually write way later after the thing happened, not right away, which I don't know why. But like, essentially the creative process, it's like, there's always ideas that are being sparked. It's like you're just in your day-to-day environment. You could be on the train and you see someone make a comment, or you could just be at school and, you know, you feel some type of way. So it's almost like I don't seek it out. So I'm trying to be more regular with just writing in general. But like the poems you hear, I feel like I was just like, oh, an idea. Like I saw something in my environment or I experienced it and then it sparked it. Like not like you kind of like clock into your job, where I feel like it would change once like people are like working artists, if you need to always release things, which I feel like sometimes like changes how the art is, because you're not just doing it when you want to do it, you're doing it because you have to. So right now I'm in the stage where it's like I do it just because I want to, right? So it's really like the idea comes and then I write it down, and it usually takes like up to 6 months sometimes. Like Donald Trump one honestly took like a year and a half. I didn't know, like I'd write a couple lines and I'm like, this is too much. Or the creative process, a big one of it is performing it. I remember the first time I performed it, I wasn't comfortable with it and I didn't even finish the poem. I just like pretty much like ran off stage. I was like, oh my God, like, because everyone's face was just like mortified. And I was like, I need to take a different approach with the poem. Like it wasn't the same type of feedback I get now. Like I always get like mortified faces in the crowd, but like I wasn't confident enough. And the poem was more like, it was less satirical and it was more serious, right? And then I realized I was like, I have to make it more comedic. So I like went back and I like made it shorter, because also making it long, people are like, okay, like how much more stuff is this girl? Like I don't even know what people were thinking, but like it made me so uncomfortable that I was just like, got off stage, and then the friends that are there with you, you're like, oh my God, you did so great. And I'm like, I didn't even do half of it. Like it was mortified.
Wow.
So a big part of the creative process is sharing it, because a lot of things change when you share it, right? Like, so it's like going to open mics when I can and trying to share new pieces is really important, because that will always make you go back and be like, nah, I need to do it differently or make it more comfortable. So yeah, a big thing is just giving it time. Like the creative process, it just happens randomly. I don't have like a set time for it or whenever. It usually happens during times, like I write poems when I feel like I shouldn't be, like I should be studying for a test, or like I should be listening in class, but I'm like, I have a poem, so
Yes.
write it down, right? So yeah, you're just patient with yourself and realize like if you have this idea, like whether it's gonna take like 1 month or 2 years to do it, just give it its time, because like you will be proud of the product at the end. So yeah, patience is the most important piece of creative process.
Patience. And vulnerability also.
Vulnerability,
because
yeah.
the fact that you go to the open mic and share it, even though you're not even comfortable yourself with the outcome yet.
Yeah.
And like you did half of the poem, you know, like that type of stuff. I think it's like, that's pure vulnerability and also courage, because vulnerability and courage are deeply
intertwined.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to be vulnerable, or else like you first of all couldn't even write some of these pieces, right? If you're not like gonna be raw and open and honest. And I'm being a little bit more vulnerable. I feel like my vulnerability level with the poems I've released till date are pretty surface level vulnerable. I don't want to like judge my vulnerability, but I feel like it's surface level. It just talks about like, you know, my spiritual journeys, or, you know, just talking about basic, like everyone goes through like the culture pressures or familiar pressures. But like I really started talking about like my relationships with people, or like, you know, really being vulnerable, things that I didn't want to open up about. I started to, because I realized like these are relevant. These are things that people need to, you know, hear and know. And I feel like people could be encouraged and benefit from it. And so it's really like shed another piece of vulnerability. It's not recorded yet. We have finished pieces. So I'm really excited to share and record. We perform them sometimes, but yeah.
I'm so excited.
I am excited to record. We need to record soon. Sid's moving soon.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
So we gotta record.
Gotta get the job done.
Get the job done.
Before
Yeah.
your partner flies away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your music side.
Yeah. My music partner. Yeah. Not to get confused. Everyone thinks we're dating. We're not.
Yeah. That's why I
clarified. I know. You don't think that. I was just like,
yes.
People love to run with it. They'll just like take that tidbit and like, did you hear that one part? Like clarify.
Yes. Clarification. Being professional here. So, all right. Yes, I love it, because you're actually talking about the state of flow. Like, I don't know if you've heard of that, but like that when you are performing or when you are creating, it's like that's something
it's just happening.
Like, it just happens, right?
Yeah.
And like, I feel like it's so important for people here that are listening to like hear first word from someone that's like not theorizing from it, but actually speaking from her own experience. Like she's in class and she's just like, a poem comes and she'll write it down, right? That's how...
Can't let it slip away.
can't let it slip
Can't
away.
let it slip away.
If you let it slip away, will it ever come back?
Yeah, no, it sometimes just doesn't. So you can't take that risk, guys.
Gotta catch it.
You gotta catch it.
Yeah. And you also do a lot of different things in your life. I mean, you host Raw Voices, you have your band Basque, you are studying rocket science? No, nuclear science.
Whoa, energy science, woohoo, and
Energy.
communications.
Energy and communications.
Yeah.
You have those two. How do you see that as being like part of your creative like nature, doing like all these different things? And how does like science become creative? Do you see like something creative in it, or is it not? Is it not creative?
Is it not creative? I mean, there's some non-creative parts of it, but like truly innovative science is very creative. Like, because like just the idea of like the trial and error method is like the essence of like creativity, right?
True.
Like just trying again, and also like just creating designs that work and like connecting with people, right? Like a lot of science is just trying to connect people with like the natural world, and I think that has an essence of creativity to it. But yeah, like I feel like a lot of people like to disconnect them, but like good science, like the best science will have like a creative element, right? Because you need like creative ways to problem solve, right? Like not everything in this world is very like rigid and logical, right? So you need to, be creative to like find solutions, right?
Totally.
Yeah, and I really enjoy it. I think that energy science is just something I'm passionate about. I've always been like, we talk about climate change or creating a carbon-free economy, but I never understood how that was viable, right? Because like you've been using fossil fuels for so long, and they say like, well, the sun is not always shining, the wind isn't always there, and hydro is like pretty overused already, and all these things. So you're just like, okay, well, how would we solve this solution? And I just wanted to find the answers for myself, because I feel like there's just so many different rhetorics around it, right? Just so many people that like, no, it doesn't work. And then like people like Bill Nye's like, no, like totally work. We can go 100% carbon free. So I'm like, no. I need to learn this for myself, because like there's just too many conflicting ideas. Like it's pretty universal that climate change is a thing. Sorry for you non-climate change people. You can turn off the podcast now.
Yeah.
But no, and like climate change is a real thing. We can see it. So it's just kind of like, I wanted to realize a solution, because I didn't want to keep living my life the way I was and complaining about these things and then like not knowing how to solve it, right? Like,
Right.
Because like we're just gonna keep like, this is like a really dire issue, and it's like, oh, like I used to be like, let's recycle, and then found out like most of our recycling is going to the trash. So it's like I don't even know what to do anymore. Right. So I need to go do the math myself, find the solutions, be creative about the solutions, and see if there are creative solutions to this very dire issue. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited that you're in this, because this is your last year of school,
It
right?
is. Woohoo.
So you're getting to action pretty soon. And I'm excited, because we need people that think like that, right? That because you can be in energy science and you can just be doing exactly what you're told, like we are trained, but because you have had this artistic experience throughout your life, and I make it circular here, I'm doing like this gesture with my hands, it gives you like this other input to your brain. Basically, you have both brains, like both of. I mean, I'm not saying you have two heads. You're both sides of your brain,
the left and right. Yeah, the lobes.
Left and right. Yeah, they're like both active when you're thinking. So it's like almost inevitable that you're trying to think of creative solutions. That's great. And yeah, you will make impact through your art, through your words, through your science.
And communications is just like I thought the degree was really cool. It was a lot about media and stuff. It's made me really just look into my world and be like, wow, overanalyze everything. Like I look at an advertisement now and I'm like, I know exactly why you put the font like to the left and not to the right and to the middle. Like it just makes you like, oh my goodness, we're just like passively taking all our information in, and it's really helping me like decipher my world. Cause like I feel like subconsciously you become like a passive consumer, right? But then you realize, wow, certain colors make me hungry, right? Like you think about it, why is it like a fast food ad never really black and white, like, and it's because they want to like gravitate this like excitement. So red and yellow, and the way that humans process, we're just so primitive that like we need to like admit it so then we're not falling into these traps. So yeah.
Word.
Yeah. So communications is a great way of just deciphering my world and like understanding.
I don't remember which one was the applause. I think no, that one. Yes. Yes, people, think for yourselves. Yes.
Yeah, it's a tough world. So communications, lots of creativity in there. I like it. It's just a great degree.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow, that's a very powerful combination you're making there, actually, because you're still on. Yeah, I mean, you're young, so you have like a lot of road
People love
ahead.
saying that. But yeah,
I don't want. I'm not gonna say what your age is. I just said you're young. I'm also young. I have a long road ahead of me, right?
Yes,
and
yeah, young age makes a difference. People, feel like I feel like age should just be a number, right? Like if you're 40 years old and want to go back to school, but it is different when you're 18 versus when you're 40. It has its pros and cons, but definitely very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's true. We can start over at any time of our lives. But it's just cool that you have like this these tools that you're combining, and I think like it's a really good tool set, right? That you're building.
I'm excited. I was in computer science before, so I'm glad I got out of there.
Oh my god, yeah, change to a better science.
No hate on computer science. That's Sid's major, but
right. It's just what connects to you most. We've talked already about like how controversial your message has been. You have been motivated by these social issues and stuff, right? That surround us, that are like contingent and that we need to talk about. You have been building this for a few years, maybe like 3 years or so, that you've been like going to open mics and Raw Voices and maybe more. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Raw Voices has been running for 3 years. I went to like my first open mic when I was like 16, but I wasn't really as consistent with it. And it was actually like my high school teacher that told me, hey, you should go to an open mic. And she took me herself.
Oh.
Yeah. Those teachers that become your second parents. It's kind of nice. Yeah, my parents came out that night too. It was like the first time that like I really performed in public, but it wasn't really as consistent until I was like, I was gonna out myself with my age. Haha, you guys can know how. Until I was like 19 or whatever. And so you're right, like 3 years. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. So do you think that you have become like an influential person, or someone that people are like listening to know what you have to say in the scene or in the city? Do you see yourself like that? Do you see like that your message has had like an impact on people?
I think that, I think influence isn't like something that has to be like big. Like I feel like if one person comes up and says, hey, like I really related to that, like it could be my brother, right? Like you realize you influence people regardless, like in your day, like your friends or just like the people you interact with. So I do want to have like positive influences on people. Like if you can have an influence, like why not enable like good things? Right. So I hope to have more of a voice and an influence in the art scene. I mean, like, I've been running Raw Voices and doing Basque, but I really hope that I could do something a little bit more like concrete and ongoing. Like Raw Voices is monthly, but like something that's, not just once a month, right? Like something that's a little bit more concrete. And like I really see like the small grassroots thing happening. And like I see, especially I think the biggest thing with Raw Voices, I feel like has given me like a really amazing platform, because it's interesting. I was doing like, the first podcast I ever did. It's not like I did that many. This is my second podcast. Woohoo! Hey. Thanks for having me, Vanessa. But the first time I did this podcast, it was interesting. It was this gentleman who was he was Caucasian, and he was just talking about how he sees that on like stats that 1/3 of Calgary is like non-white or whatever. But he's like, when I go to these spaces that are meant for like open micers or whatever, he's like, I don't see that demographic being represented. And then he came to Raw Voices, and then he realized like the majority of people were like young people in this demographic. He's like, where were they hiding? I was looking for, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like there's a lack of visibility. And I think that visibility is important, like just being visible and seeing like your host is someone that's just like this young Black girl, right? It's like very influential for the person that like Calgary definitely has a certain culture, right? It's very it's predominantly white and stuff, and it's very rich, and it's a very affluent city, and there's like a lack of spaces and platforms for people that do live in the more lower income areas or that are immigrants, right? Even though they exist, they're here and they're looking for it. But those spaces, it's like, even if it's open for everyone, right? Like something could be open, but it could not be like welcoming, right? Like, so I think that in that sense, I hope to like continue being like visible and showing like, hey, there's lots of us out here. And there's a certain type of connection and like empowerment that's needed, especially if you're like a recent immigrant or even an immigrant or a person of color. There's certain lived experiences you have that someone that's very affluent or that is of Caucasian descent won't really like experience, right? There's just like a certain lived experience. So like being visible has a certain like influence, and I hope to create spaces that welcome people that feel like the mainstream spaces might like not. Like they're welcoming, but they're not welcoming, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. There's like a tacit maybe closeness of the circle, like that tends to just happen, right?
Right.
And yeah, I actually listened to that podcast, and it was interesting. I just thought it was interesting how much he enhanced that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. I didn't notice that, and I was curious to hear him say like, "Oh, I went to Raw Voices, and this is where all these people were." And well, I guess it's my own experience. I don't know. It didn't happen to me. Like I started first place I went. I think it was Koi.
Right.
But then I remember, no, actually, that was not the first place I went. Like when I had just arrived to the city, like some of my roommates took me out, and I went to Cowboys. And I was like, I don't know. Number one, country is not really my thing, and there were people like there was a boxing thing in the middle, like there were some boxers like boxing literally, and
I've never been to Cowboys, but
yeah,
I heard it's huge though.
it's really big, yeah. And people drinking a lot, but yeah, I didn't feel. I mean, I am an immigrant, and maybe I'm used to a different kind of environment, although similar and all. But I just didn't feel as welcome, or I didn't feel as like part of it.
Right.
Because there were so many things that were like so different and maybe very Calgarian, but just like I couldn't connect to it. And then I go to Koi. I saw the Haven Party, and that was one of my first experiences. And I was like, wow, this place is like full of more than the nationalities, or if people are people of color, or if they're immigrants or not. I just saw like a diverse group of artists, and that were very supportive and very willing to connect to each other. And like that was so beautiful. I mean, I think it might be my Pisces moon, but I was like, I'm super sensitive to those energies. You know, you enter a place and you're like, in this place, people are trying to hook up. And you just sense it. You just feel it. But at that event, and also at Raw Voices, the times that I've been there, I'm like, this is a welcoming space where people are just like chill, right? Just chilling, just nice, and it feels welcoming. And maybe it's just the nature of being an immigrant for me is like I want to meet everybody. I just want to be, you know,
you want to connect with your community. There is a lack of community here, right?
Right.
Compared to like a lot of places that people would call like their home, right? So yeah, there's a lack of those connecting spaces for sure.
Yeah. So I think what you're doing is amazing, and
thank you.
I look forward to something that doesn't only happen once a month.
Yeah, no, like, wait for it.
Every day.
Every day. Wait for it.
Every day.
Raw Voices every day.
Oh.
It's a little different, but you know what I mean. There's going to be something.
Yeah. So it's important. It's important. And I think you definitely already are someone that, as a host of an event that has been happening for 3 years, like people know you, people know who you are, and that you host this space, and that it's welcoming for everyone, and that the message is love, peace, and art, and you know, and that's it. And I think the more visibility you gain, that will make a huge impact in making these spaces more available, maybe for everyone, or more capable even of generating money like for its own sustainment, and so that more community can be built.
Right. And I think with like a big thing with our economy and stuff, and like the lack of reliance that we can have on oil and gas for the future, just because like that is what made us rich. I feel like there's like an untapped arts economy, right? In terms of like if there's like communities being built, it increases like people's well-being, which would help them like just, I feel like within the community continue to spread, because like I feel like it's like where you delegate your money, right? Like it's really funny, just like you can spend $10 on item A versus item B, but it feels different the way you spend this $10, like versus like if you buy a $10 beer or like a $10 like your full dinner, right? Like you feel different. It's a different way of spending your money. So but I think there's an untapped arts economy, especially in terms of like tourism. Like I feel like Calgary could be a great place that people come and tour, or like have a lot of potential to, you know, have this like really thriving art scene, right? So there just needs to be like money needs to be going to the right places, and you'd be surprised how much money exists. It's just that like the people that keep getting the money are the people that have like always had the connections and privileges of getting the money. It doesn't like really trickle down, right? Like they're creating good things for the city, but I don't feel like it's still sustainable. Like all these grants, they give like 10,000, 30,000, but like there's nothing that I feel like has been rigidly like sustainable. Like there's great spaces, like I'd say like C Space is doing great things, and there's a lot of like free art galleries and all that, but there's just something missing, and I hope to like add, not like be the missing piece or anything like crazy like that, but like add to it, and hopefully cultivate ideas for other people to like be like, you know what, maybe I can add something to it, right? Because these spaces have been important for people, right? So
I mean, important even in a life level, like so important that you might just like stay alive because you found this place. Like that's like how important human connection is.
Like and loneliness is what drives, right? And it's like, how can we mitigate that, right? And we always come back to the situation when it's like too late. But it's like, what have we done as a society that has made us feel just so disconnected, right? And coming back to like the brain, like our primate brains, right? Like we really are not meant to be living in such stress-induced environments, right? Like the fact that our phones vibrate and like we feel like we need to be on it. Like there's just so many little things, like there's just so many people that are experiencing anxiety or, you know, or that are depressed and stuff like that. And like usually people are so young when they experience that. And there's like no reason to, right? And people are like, what, mental health is like this, it feels like a new thing. I mean, it's always been there, but I feel like it's exponentially exploded because of just how our environments are. So if there is a way to tell people, hey, you know what, put away your phone, just do human connection. Let's listen to some jokes or listen to someone play some guitar and just talk. That might help you, you know, sleep better at the end of the day.
That's exactly what happens in Raw Voices.
Oh, I'm glad. I really hope that, you know, someone has cultivated some connection. I try to tell people during intermission, go talk to someone new, because I think it's there's this like fear of approaching other people, but you can talk to a lot of people.
It's the way, like you said, it's like the way that we have been, I don't know, building our society, the way that we have somehow technology, something that even though it's been good, it's been like it has helped us connect throughout the planet. But it's weird how we're like just now experiencing this like mental health effects of like how we got used to being isolated. We got unused to one-on-one real-time human connections, and we didn't even notice how that happened, which is crazy.
It just happened, and you're like, wait, when did this happen?
Exactly. Just like blew out of nowhere, and suddenly we were having depression, and suddenly we were anxious, and suddenly we looked around us and we realized that there was almost nobody around us. And so these places, like, I can't like enhance it enough. I think it's so important. And in terms of representation, in terms of community building, in terms of human connections, in terms of the growth of the arts as well. And I totally agree with you on that. Like, this city has so much potential. And now with this new library and
shout out to the new Calgary Public Library.
Shout outs big.
Because that's actually where I recorded the first podcast too, which is crazy because I'm like, wow, this is like actually really helping people cultivate what they want, right?
Exactly.
And I'm glad.
I mean, this is what's keeping me here.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to do this if not for the new Calgary library. So I'm so happy about
So
that.
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
That was not a sponsored ad.
No, it was not. It was not
We're just
sponsored.
grateful.
We're just grateful because this is like open to the community, and we can just access this equipment, and it's amazing, and I'm so grateful. We're almost closing up, but I don't want to leave.
Oh my God, it's closing time.
No.
That was such a good conversation. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I just want to hear you talk about like your experience as a woman, in science, as a like kind of like, I don't know if right now, but I guess that it's kind of like more masculine environment.
For sure.
Yeah, as a woman artist, as a woman host of an event, as a woman on stage, how have there been any, like, you don't have to talk about it, but has there been anything uncomfortable for you specifically for being a woman, or that you've had to stand up, or you have had to stand up for a friend, you know? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. With women in science, I don't feel like I feel it as much until, not gonna lie, not trying to out them, but like when you go to conferences, like nuclear energy conferences, you're like, I am the only person that looks like me. Like, there are women and there are some women of color, but like out of like the 3,000 people that are there or whatever, 500 to 3,000, whatever. Sorry, it's not 3,000 people. It's like 500 people. Okay. Yeah. It's like 500-ish people there. I guess depends how big the conference is, to be honest. But like the traditional ones, like I've been to ones like in Calgary where it was like a lot more like student oriented, and they gave out like free passes for students. So it felt like a lot more people my age or whatever. But like the traditional ones where like they happen like yearly or whatever, and it's usually like in Ottawa and like the Westin Hotel or something. And then, you know, my teacher finds funds because there's no way I'd pay for that to go by myself. But like, it's a great networking experience. But like the way that like I am just so exhausted of like putting this facade, like talking to all these, for lack of better terms, like 50 plus white men, right, that have been in this industry, and that ask me, how do we get more young people? How do we like diversify? Like, those are topics they have, but it's like no one on the panel is a person of color or is not a woman. You know what I mean? Like, it's so weird. And in those situations, I've literally like, I literally sometimes, you know, skip out on certain events. Like, I don't really do the full day. Like, I just go explore the city because it's like how I've talked to 10 people I'm tired, right? And it's like, if I find like one person I'm like, who are you? I need to talk to you because I could and you can tell they're also like kind of in the shadows, right? And I think being a woman in general, like, I never want to make like gender discrepancies and stuff, but like it's so tough when you like go into the world and you can tell you're treated differently. And it's like there's just this like continuous like battle of like power and spaces. Just like there's just some men that are very entitled, like, and it just invades your space. I like start going to parties and I start like avidly social policing. Like I literally like, this was not even that long ago, it was like 2 weeks ago. But like I saw this girl at this party and I could tell she was like uncomfortable and the guy was kissing up on her, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep watching this. And then like I was standing right in front of them and he kind of gave me like a dirty look and then like took her a little bit farther away from me because he could tell I was like literally standing like as close as I am with you, like just standing right in front of him staring at him. And then he pulled her away and I could tell she was still uncomfortable and I could tell she was trying to call her friends, but they like missed each other. It was a house, I don't know, it's not even a big environment, but they like didn't see her and they're like, oh, look at her, she's just, I don't know, getting some or whatever. But he was just kissing up on her. And then she was like kind of on her phone. And I just went up to her and I was like, yo, do you want to go outside or whatever? And she was like, for a split second, confused, and then smiled. She's like, sure. And then I was like asking her, like, you know, were you uncomfortable? She's like, I was so uncomfortable and I didn't know how to get out that situation. Like the amount of times that like, and I later found out she was underage and I was like, what the hell are you doing here? Yeah, there's a bunch of apparently high school girls there. And I was like, yikes, this is not good whatsoever. But, it's just terrible because it's like that power dynamic, right? You know, you want to say like, hey, get off me or hey, whatever. Yeah. And then it's like, if you do that, they're like, okay, well, you're just being annoying, or you're trying to be tough, or like all this stuff. And it's like you can't claim your space or your power, right? It's always just like a continuous negotiation. And it's just like, and it's just like this negotiation. You just realize you're like, I want everyone to be equal. I want genders to be equal. But like, I literally will say, hey, no, I don't feel like this. And you feel like that is a negotiation, right? Like and I realized there was just so many people in my life. And like recently I've started like, not compromising. There's just so many people in my life I've compromised. Like I'm not required to say hi to you, right? If you've hurt me, right? Like I'm not required to be kind to you, even if you are this like major, like, sports play, you know what I mean? Like even if you are like everyone loves you, or like whatever, or you do this a lot of times as a woman to keep the peace, right? Like you'll just stay quiet to just like keep the peace. And it's like, this past year, and I really like hope in the new year, I like stop negotiating my space, right? If this is a negotiation, I don't need to involve myself in you. I do not need to say hi to you. I do not need to like try to keep the peace, right? Like we've invited people, like we've had parties where we have like, bring up like high school friends, and I'll invite people that I know I don't want to invite, but I'll invite them because I know other people there would appreciate seeing them. So you almost like sacrifice that. And then the person makes another reason to like hate them. And it's like, we keep negotiating this just because of whatever status they have in our lives, like air quotes around that, like, or in this world, or in like, our group of friends, right? They are still in some point, quote unquote, respected, right? And you try to keep that peace because it's like, it's not easier, but like, not easier on you, but easier in the social situation to keep the peace. And that's the tough thing, right? It's a lot of unlearning, right? Like high school it was an entire 3 years of negotiating my space with men, right? And it still continues, right? And it's just really weird. But I think what is so important is like, if you do have male friends, like having male allies is actually crazy, because like, it's so different when a guy is like, recently, like one of my friends like actually stood up for me and was like, yo, like leave her alone. Like, do you even understand what consent is? And then the guy was just like freaking out, like, but that's not even what I meant. He's like, leave her alone. She doesn't want to drink. Like and he was a friend of ours, right? And we invited him to that place, and he was just being so persistent. And it was just like so weird. It's like, it's literally everywhere. And it's an unlearning experience for both genders, right? Like, how do you teach people to be respectful of one another's spaces, right? And it's tough. So negotiation is not required. Cancel culture is real. You can cancel people, guys. It's fine.
No is no.
No is no.
And that's huge. I'm learning. I'm really literally taking notes. And has that been like, because this is like life experience, right? But particularly for you being on stage, like what about women that, for example, me, myself, I'm like a little bit scared of getting on stage because I know that I am visible, I am tall, right? Like people can see me. And I very much, even though I'm a grown-up woman, I am scared of, I mean, I'll do it anyway, but I am scared of like the reaction after get off the stage and a guy wants to like, has his own fantasy in mind, right? And has that type of thing happened to you? Because when you do your art on stage, some people will literally fall in love with you, right?
I guess so.
It can happen.
Wow, under arts causing spells. It's interesting you say that. Like, yes and no. Like, it exists in both ways, right? Like, people will see that on stage, and I think that as a woman, people have like lower expectations. They'll be like, "Wow, you're so confident on stage. You're like, you're so like hard. Like, you could like really rock out. You know what I mean? Like, have that presence on stage, and people like create ideas about you." And then it's just like, well, that's not who I am, right? Like it's taken me a long time. Like I've been playing piano recitals since I was 5 and play since I was like, I've had a lot of experience on the stage. And the stage is not an easy place, but it is a comfort zone for me. And like, it's tough. It will always exist, right? Like that'll just be a reason, right? That could cause a reason, but it's nothing like too prevalent. I do think that when I first was hosting shows, actually, I'll be honest, it was really tough. Like the first venue we were at, I felt like it was always negotiating with the bar manager. He was always just being like borderline, like not abusive, but like definitely like pretty manipulative. He said, you guys don't make enough money. And I say, you don't even have menus. You don't even add like you're yelling at me because my audience are not alcoholics, but there's other ways to sell it. And like the business went under for a good reason. But like the first booker there, he actually like straight up like would like ask me out, and he was like in his like 40s. And at the time I was 18, and he'd be like, he'd ask me if I have a boyfriend. I'm like, it's not relevant to you. And he'd be like, okay, well, I just want to ask you out. And if I say like, no, he's like, it's not even a big deal. It's just like a couple of us from the bar that are going like that work. He's like, it's just like, think of it as a work. I was like, I don't want to hang out with you. And it's just like a continuous negotiation, right? It's just like, and he ended up getting fired because there was actually like, he was harassing multiple bartenders and multiple people, but he said that he quit. I don't care if you hear this. You know who you are.
We don't care.
Yes, you can tell. So it is tough because in the industry, especially like I started Raw Voices when I was like just like pretty much turned 18. There was just like this I could easily be pushed aside. Like you always had to fight. Like every month I'm like, don't cancel my show. Like he'd be like, can't you do it on a Tuesday or a Thursday? I'm like, no, it won't work the same way. And he's like, well, I want to make $3,000 or whatever. I was like, that's not realistic, right? I was like, this, and I realized he was the only venue. I went to other venues and I'm like, please give me a realistic, and every venue that I've ever worked with gives me realistic numbers. And I'm like, oh yeah, perfect. And we always hit it. Like not always, but like 90% of the time, right? Mm-hmm. This guy's asking for like what, and would just be like, we'd sign contracts and try to kick me off. And I feel like it had a lot to do with me being young and me just being a girl, right? And me just being kind of nice to him, right? Like my one friend, she's like, I'll join you to this meeting, and started taking videos. She's like, you know, he's like being like, she said she was like straight up being abusive. And I was like, no, he's just kind of like out of it. She's like, he's mean. He's mean to you. And she's like, you're really nice. And it's like, how many times like you look back at that and it's like in the industry, like I need to stand my ground, right? And it's like as a woman, you have to learn how to be like, doesn't matter if I'm aggressive, doesn't matter if I'm this, it's not negotiable, right? And it's tough because when you are in a public figure, people are like, sometimes like you almost can't run from it, right? Like if people want to find you, they know where to find you. So, like, right? It's like, I could say, no, I don't want to give you my number or whatever, but you could show up next month and still like, you know what I mean? So it does, I've never like feared for my safety or whatever, but I can definitely see like how that could lead to that once you're like visible. But yeah, I'm no like Kim Kardashian. I'm not that famous. But like, you know what I mean? It does create like even the tiniest of visibility, right? Like even just going to the same school as someone, like that's a public place. Like, you know, you're like, don't feel safe there, right? So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I love what you said, like having that non-negotiability, like as a reminder. I love that. Like it's almost a sticker to put in my brain. It's non-negotiable.
Not negotiable.
You don't need to either explain anything, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is something that I like to talk here, especially with women, but like I am not an advocate of just like women have to stand up and take over the world and men have to be
subordinate.
No, that's not what it is. I just want to make that clarification. It's just a situation that women experience, and that's just a reality. It's just like being a person of color. It's just like being an immigrant. It's situations that we experience, and it's real. We can't just ignore it. And I have nothing against men. I love men. I have great men friends. It's just something that we as a society need to learn,
or unlearn,
learn and deconstruct, deconstruct these ideas and create them balanced now again with our feminine and masculine natures that we all have within. It's just a little unbalanced, I believe, from my perspective. I love that. Let's just wrap up with what motivates you and what you're dreaming. What's your vision?
What's the vision?
Yeah, what's your driving force to the future?
Well, you know what? I do want a space. Like that's like my dream. Like, I mean, I could do a job in communications or work. I've done jobs in those. I could go work for the nuclear energy industry. I have lots of connections for that. It's something I enjoy. I've like recently learned about and stuff. But if I could choose my path, I mean, I would want to be like a business owner and own like a creative space and kind of like, create a space for people to come in anytime and like create a different type of social environment, right? I feel like a lot of times if you sit around with friends, especially if you're under 18, but like, let's just say you're over 18. If you don't want to do any activities that really have to do with drinking or clubbing or going to the bar, you're left with eating, usually, like eating out. Or, I mean, you could go to an art gallery and stuff, but it is just a space you walk around. It's not like a space you sit and spend time with or able to cultivate your own creativity or whatever. So I would really want like a space with like workshops and open space and just like all these different things that for people to come and like, just like a gym, right? Like you go to the gym to use equipment, like come use some art equipment and like hang out and like just focus on amateur artists. Like Calgary has been doing a really good job with like places like Neverland or Sea Space or whatever for professional artists. But it's like, most people don't have $600 a month to spend, right?
Exactly.
And those are already established artists. They already have created a craft. It's like, how about the person that says they don't know how to draw? Or how about that person that says they don't know a chord on a guitar but would love to learn a chord on a guitar, right? Like, where are the spaces for those people? So that's the dream. But if that doesn't work out, catch me putting solar panels on people's roofs and trying to change zoning laws for tiny homes. That's like,
oh my God, no, I love that idea.
Gotta just do it all, right? But
oh my God.
yeah, if it doesn't work out, if my business goes under, I always have a backup plan of working in like the renewable sector, I'd hope. But
you can but no, it's not gonna go wrong. I support it. I love that idea.
Perfect. We got one customer.
Yeah, I'm down because actually it's like it connects so much to. It's kind of like my purpose doing this podcast is there's people that have that double life, right? I want the person I want to be and the person that I am being right now. And there's so many that go to a show, go to a live music event, and they're like with their eyes shining, I want to do that too.
Yeah.
But they haven't even tried. They haven't got the confidence. They've been told that they can't. They've been told that they're bad at it. They've been told so many things, and that generates blocks in us, and we basically end up blocking our life source. Right?
Basically.
So I think I love your idea that for young people, for teens, right, that are like that can develop. But I would if I was like participating with you, which could be, but in my imagination, I'm just thinking of anybody that just hasn't developed their craft,
for
but
sure
would love to do it.
I would
right?
definitely do like targeted, like I'd like connect with like senior homes. I see like a lot of different things in demographics. Like there's like issues with like each, like I'd say that though, I think that regardless of how much I want to be like, this is for families and this is for seniors, I don't know. It's my communications brain. Right. You have to like hone in on like your target audience. So I feel like as much as I'll have like workshops being like senior paint or like toddler and parent, like painting session or whatever the case is. But I think that on a regular day-to-day basis, it would probably be like 12 to 30-year-old, you know what I mean? Like in that, that's still a pretty big range, but I still feel like it's that just because like, or especially even younger, like 12 to 25, because like that is like the environment that's like people are really trying to find connections, right? And I mean, like when you're older and stuff, of course, like you're still trying to find connections, but I feel like it'd be more like targeted, right? But I'd hope people come, like I hope it's like a restaurant, like restaurants don't, like families come, young people come and stuff, but like all restaurants still have like an audience that comes more than others, right? For sure, yeah. Or I hope that like, you know, if this is successful, hope to have like spaces that are like completely dedicated to families or completely dedicated to like almost like a daycare space, like completely dedicated to like children that can't stay at home, like under 12, or like a space completely dedicated to seniors. That would be nice. But for now, I just want like the light flash. Yeah, I think I saw a flash. I would hope that I can target different places, but there's an easy slip up for young people to get into stupid things.
Very true.
Yeah. So I think that we need to give more positive environments because as I remember like a teenager, you know, Friday nights, like there's like teen night, but like which happened at like leisure centers, like no offense to the Calgary public, but like the teens made those places notorious, right? And like it just, or like there'd just be random high school parties. There's just none of these places that cultivated like this like rawness or like of like self-expression. So yeah, I just feel like young people are susceptible to getting into bad things compared to the fully developed brain of an adult, they like to call it.
The fully developed global frontal cortex. For sure. I totally agree. And I love your dream and I support it wholeheartedly.
Oh, thank you. Well, watch out, guys.
Watch out.
Watch out.
It's going to evolve.
It's gonna happen.
It's going to happen. All right. I just want to remind everybody that you can find Bethel on her Instagram, Bethel2, Basque Music. It's Bask Music, and Raw Voices YYC. All of those are her Instagram. What are they called? Handles?
Handles. You got them.
Yeah. And you can hear her music at Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, and many more. For
all of it. Deezer, Tidal. Hit him.
Yes, just hit him, download, put hthem on your playlist.
Put them on your playlist.
Yes, and thank you so much, Bethel, for being here, for opening your mind and your heart to share with me, and I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for all these wonderful questions. This light is...
Yeah, we're getting like, something's going on. We better
it's having a seizure.
All right.
Thank you for everything, and I hope to connect with lots of my favorite Calgarians in the future.
Yes, let's connect. And that is it.
Woohoo!
All right, so see you on the next one.
Bye.
See ya. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Journey to Creativity podcast. You can find out more about the podcast on our Instagram and Facebook page. Just look up The Journey to Creativity. If you find this podcast helpful or you like it, please leave some stars for us if you listen on Apple. You can also leave a review or comment below the episodes on the podcast page or on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, for your support, for your comments. Stay tuned for more conversations about the magic of creativity. Bless up. Much love to you all.